We were speaking about the expositions. Now, after the 16th exposition, which was held from November 21st, 2004 to January 2005, this is the 17th exposition from November 22nd, 2014, and it will go up to 4th January 2015. Sorry. Expositions have brought back people from various parts of the world. And there's always a rumor saying that this is the last one, this is the last one. But it has never been the last one, because the diocese has taken a policy saying that after every 10 years we would expose the sacred relics of St. Francis Xavier. So they have been now decennial expositions, because people wait for this moment. People sometimes prepare themselves spiritually for this moment. We also in the parishes of Goa, we prepare for this exposition by choosing the special theme and integrating the life of St. Francis Xavier in our teaching, in our preaching, in the breaking of the word, so that we spiritually prepare ourselves. And an event of this type is not an external celebration, but for us it is more a spiritual celebration, because from this exposition we will be getting spiritual benefits. God will be bestowing His mercy upon us through the intercession of our beloved saint who chose to remain here in Goa. He always said, I would like to remain in Goa because it's a beautiful place and there are lovely people over here, and I would like to remain. So as Father Victor on his commentary was saying, the West gave us the men Francis, and we, the East, gave back to West and to the whole world, to the whole universal church, a great saint. He was made saint here because he lived on this soil and he consecrated this land. Now the place that the procession would be going with his sacred relics is a place that has already been walked by St. Francis Xavier. He would walk around here in this place, because he would, getting down here, he would go to St. Paul's College, which was some kilometers, 1 kilometer away from this site. And that's why whenever people enter here, they always say, this place is a very sacred place. We just get a feeling of the holiness of this place, of the sacredness of this place, because this saint, St. Francis Xavier, chose to dwell here, and his dwelling place makes this place holy. I remember one of a Hindu doctor who is a great friend of mine. Whenever he used to travel to the GMC Goa Medical College as a student, he said, whenever the bus arrived here and it stopped, I always revered the body of St. Francis Xavier, which was kept in this basilica, because he said, this saint is with us. And I would ask his intercession so that St. Francis Xavier could help me to carry on my medical studies. And he said, this tradition I've always kept. Sometimes I purposely come decide with my car just to see the basilica, and sometimes I stop my car, enter into the basilica and say a prayer to this great saint who is with me. So in the individual life of our Hindu brethren who revere him so much, they have been speaking about this saint. Not only they, even our Muslim friends, they come with great devotion, and they remain present at the tomb of our saint, of our beloved saint, and pray. They pray that God may bless their families, God may bless their work, God may bless their life, and to the intercession of St. Francis Xavier, they may protect their life. So that's why this saint has always given us this leadership. We would like to as you observe the body of St. Francis Xavier in the Basilica, the minor Basilica, you see all the clergymen who have just finished celebrating the Mass gathered around the body, and one of our clergymen is giving a commentary and he is initiating this procession. After some time, the procession would take place. So, Victor, as we observe the sacred relics of Saint Francis Xavier, our beloved saint, right now, what are your feelings?
I am feeling excited, feeling very happy. The moment has come, and the moment of reckoning that people were waiting is already there. Anytime now the body will come out, we will be feeling closer to this beloved saint of ours. And so this becomes a very intense spiritual moment for all of us, including me. I find this moment special, and that's why we have been here, and I feel everybody is waiting for this time.
Magda, since you are here with us as one of our co-commentators, what are the exact feelings you, as a woman, they say a woman has six senses. What is the sixth and the seventh sense as the relics of Saint Francis Xavier would be brought out of the Basilica?
It is a touching moment and a touching experience at this moment of this great saint being
Saint Francis Xavier, the man of peace and the great missionary that the East has seen. He was born in the West but made in the East, and of course he is known as Goinju Sahib, or the Lord of Goa, and people from around the world have been thronging here as their faith has brought them here. And one among his faithful followers is Lizette. She lives in Goa. Tell us, Lizette, you're surely happy to be here for yet another exposition. And how many expositions have you experienced?
Yes, I am very happy to be here. I have already witnessed 5 expositions, and it's a great privilege to be here among all these people.
Tell us your memories about the expositions or about old Goa of the past. You surely came here as a child with your parents and with your relatives. What do you remember then?
We used to have a lot of fun. We used to love being here amongst all the crowds and standing in the queues, but it was a really great experience.
What about old Goa? Old Goa is a historical city. You usually come here with your family even when there's no exposition, or even on other odd days of the year?
Old Goa was one of the places that we always came for picnics. We enjoyed being here, and we always had a good time.
Yeah, and personally, what would you say is relevant from the teachings of Saint Francis Xavier in your life? Do you have a lot of faith in this great saint?
Yes, we do have a lot of faith. If at all Goa is safe from cyclones and many other things, it's all because of the Saint Francis Xavier.
You heard her, and of course she's right. Faith brings them here, and Saint Francis Xavier is one such saint who has been in the life of this faithful Lizette from Goa. Thank you for being on DD India.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We hear special music because as the sacred relics are being brought out, it's with great joy and triumph that we are bringing out the relics of St. Francis Xavier from this minor basilica, which always held his body with great awe and reverence. People come to venerate, and now there is a great excitement outside the basilica because the body is being brought out of the basilica.
Yes, on DD India, welcome once again. This is a live telecast of the exposition of the sacred relics of Saint Francis Xavier. And people from different walks of life are here. And right now with us live on DD India is the Honorable Deputy Chief Minister of Goa, Mr. Francis D'Souza. So nice to have you on DD India. And tell us, you have come for the 17th exposition, but surely you have experienced many expositions in the past. How has been your trip down memory lane? Can you tell us a little bit?
I have experienced about 4 expositions. This is my fourth one, what I remember now. But I feel that organizationally this is one of the best. Means government and the church authorities and the ASI, Archaeological Survey of India, they put a huge effort. And as on today, there are about 10,000 people here. Everything is in a very disciplined way, means well organized.
So how was it starting to organize such a big event? I mean, the Goa government is expecting around 50 lakh people for the 17th exposition. Surely it has not been an easy task for all of you in the government, sir, to get this underway.
The government has spent about 70 crores on this internal works and another 126 crore on the external works, that is bypass roads and other issues. Means. But organizing this event for a huge number of people is a big challenge. And my government has been successfully handling this type of events. Means. Even the last exposition, my government was in power. And they did a reasonably good job. And the response is appreciated by the church. Once a church appreciates a response, I feel that is a big encouragement.
Many of our viewers across India and abroad would surely love to know if you could share some light on the government's plans for tourism in the sector where heritage monuments and can be more encouraged. I mean, for tourists to see, come here, spend a day or two. I mean, is there a lot being done in that sector?
You see, this old Goa complex is a heritage place by itself. And this whole place is with the Archaeological Survey of India. They are the people in charge of the places. There is a minimum government interference and the church interference. And we have to take their permissions for each and everything that has to be done here. But the government has what you call canvassed and created awareness that the exposition is taking place. There are tourism people who show all the sites around Old Goa and other places also. We have got n number of churches and temples in Goa which are pilgrimage sites. People like to visit them. They're all heritage sites. But only problem is we don't have the freedom as much as we want. Means the sites are not with the government. They're with the Archaeological Survey of India. Neither the church nor the government can do much except conduct tours. But the government is well prepared, like the tourism department is well prepared. There are enough facilities for tourists to come, stay in Goa, visit the sites. We have put in about 20 Kadamba buses to shuttle from the main bus stop to here. So that way we have taken care of.
So what about setting up more tourist infrastructure here? I mean, hotels around the place or guest houses rather, where people can come and soak in the atmosphere, maybe stay for a week or two and something like that.
That is true, but we have, the church authorities have put in dormitories for pilgrims. There are hotels in Panjim, not in very close vicinity, because this is a sort of a preserved site. There are n number of problems, issues here. But government has taken care that there are enough number of hotels about 7-8 kilometers away from here. So either way, either side, you go to Ponda side, you go to Panjim side, there are enough places to take care of the tourist.
And one final question, sir. Personally, how much relevant is St. Francis Xavier in your life?
You see, I am named Francis, but not after St. Francis Xavier. I have been named after St. Francis of Assisi, Italian saint who was 200s earlier than St. Francis Xavier. But I have been a regular visitor to this place since my childhood. I have big faith and big respect for the saint of Goa. He is a saint of Goa, we call it. Although he is a Spanish priest, we have identified him with Goa. So he is a Goan saint for us. So my respects and my belief that St. Francis Xavier is part of Goa. Although he died somewhere close to China, but he is part of Goa. We call him Goinso Sahib.
Yes. As we await the sacred relics of this great saint, which are about to come out of the basilica, we would also like to ask the Honorable Deputy Chief Minister of Goa. In January, very Goan, ethnically Goan, Reverend Father Zevaz is going to be canonized as a saint. Does the government have any plans for that?
I have sent a small note to my chief minister. Unfortunately, he is taken up to the center that pilgrims who want to visit Sri Lanka should be subsidized a little bit. That I have done. So
Yes.
let's see what's the government response.
Thank you very much, sir, for being on DD India, and may St. Francis Xavier bless you, and may you have a nice time at the exposition. Thank you for being on DD India.
We can see the relics of St. Francis Xavier being carried now by the priest. They are the first to carry it in the procession, this holy walk with the relics. After that, it will be handed over to the lay people. The relics have now come out of the basilica. It is not a very triumphant walk. It's a walk in simplicity, a walk that will make us humble, that will make us realize that God can work through us. We join Francis in this walk. The body is now arriving outside. We can see the sacred canopy being put over the casket. The lay people are now carrying the sacred relics. As they go on, there will be some stations where other people will carry the sacred relics. There is a good development over a period of time. Everyone has an opportunity to take the relics of St. Francis. Now women are also there. As they walk with this sacred relics of Francis, let us also make a walk. Let us join them wherever we may be. Let us join in this journey, walking. This holy walk reminds us that life that we are living is like a journey. From birth till death comes to us, we are on a journey. And the life of Francis is made of many journeys. The great missionary journeys that he had across the sea. He took great joy in adventure. He joined the sailors, went to new lands and discovered new peoples, all for spreading God's love. Now we can see his relics being brought towards the Say Cathedral. It is in the Say Cathedral that his relics will be kept for veneration. Francis, when he was alive, certainly walked along these roads. Many of us have grown up walking around this place. But it is important, more than walking around this place, is to walk the path of Jesus. And perhaps it is easier to walk the path of Jesus by walking in the footprints of Francis. Goincho Sahib, he is so lovingly being addressed by people in Goa. He is the saint, certainly of everyone. Though a Western man, appropriated and accepted as Goan, he is Goanized by the people of Goa. In one word, he is decolonized. He was a man who came along with the colonizers, but he stood apart. He in fact questioned the erring Portuguese officials, as well as questioned the erring church authorities. Besides, he also questioned the oppression of the Brahmins. He was man of the masses. He was the man of downtrodden, the oppressed, the sick. There are many narratives about miracles that he did. But this sacred walk that now his sacred relics are embarking on is inviting us to journey with him and unite this journey with our journey of life. We Indians look at our life as a journey. Everyone is on a journey, on a pilgrimage, a tirtha yatra, going towards our destiny, a holy destiny. And Francis has gone ahead of us to this holy destiny. It is for us now to understand where we are is also part of this sacred journey. We are journeying, not alone, but together. India as a nation is on a journey. The whole world and the human family is on a journey. Each individual, each family is on a journey. Can we join the journey of our personal life with the life of Jesus, with the life of Francis? Yeah, the body of Francis is being carried with great admiration, reverence, respect, and homage.
We were speaking about the journey of faith. The journey of faith is a mystical journey. For us Christians, the journey of faith starts, as has been already mentioned, on the day of our baptism. From that time, we just move on, integrating the various experiences of our life, various events of our life, various circumstances of our life, not only the good ones, even the not so good ones, our sufferings, our sorrows, everything that we encounter, we bring into the journey of faith. That's why there is no dichotomy between our believing and our living. Our life enters into the faith, and the faith has to radiate into our life. And that is both the way. It is reciprocal. Faith enters our life enters the faith. In the sense, our faith is not different from life. So, all journeys that we perform are journeys of faith. Even when we travel, for us it is a journey of faith. We carry on our God with us. We start a journey with a prayer. This prayer helps us to concentrate on our destiny. And for us, the destiny is God. And we live a life which God calls us to live according to His plan, though we may not agree to whatever He is sending in our life. It should have been that we accept. But what happens is, as human beings, we falter, we fail. And that's why we sometimes turn against God. We lament and we actually speak against God. But this journey of faith reminds us that all the saints had similar experiences. If St. Francis Xavier would come back now, today, and if we had interviewed him, he would say, I was like you, a sinner. I was like you, a frail and fragile person. It's only God's grace that saved me. So this response or this reply would be given by all the saints, because they were not born saints. They tried to appropriate the life of faith in their own lives, and then slowly they became saints. No, holiness is nothing else but the experience of the presence of God, the power of God, and the providence of God. This is holiness for us. In holiness, we try to appropriate God's presence in our life. We live this presence. And this presence is a presence of power. It shows us the power of God. And because we believe in His presence and His power, we also believe in His providence. The same God provides for all our needs. And that's why in our journey of faith, we always remain with God. God is the main person. That's why in our Indian understanding, our Indian philosophy departs from God. God is the base of our philosophy. If there is no God, our philosophy is just in the air. As what our theologians would say, our anthropology is based on theology, because the study of men is based on study of God, because man has been created in the image and likeness of God. And that's why when we see any other person, we are called to see in that very person the image of God. This body, the sacred relics of St. Francis Xavier, is a body that embodied his whole personality. His body speaks loudly to us. His body is so powerful because for us, he still lives. He still lives in our hearts. He still lives in our minds. He still lives in our lives. He still lives in our bodies. And that's the peculiarity of this great saint. His body is a shining example for all of us. And that's why as people look for the darshan of this great saint, there is now a pause here and people are excited because they want to get a closer look of this, especially the youth. You can see the youth who are now going to carry the casket of St. Francis Xavier are all excited. In him, they look out for a leader, the leader who goes beyond all imaginations, the leader who is ready to do whatever God wants him to do to achieve his goal. And that's why all the youth look at St. Francis Xavier as a model. Till today he is relevant for us. It's not that he was relevant for us in the past, but till today he is relevant for us and inspiring us to live a good Christian life, because he in his life would condemn all corruption and bribery in those times. He would condemn the Portuguese officials who were very corrupt, and he would say, this is not a Christian life. You are called to live a Christian life. Move away from this debauchery, from this corruption, so that you put on the armor of Christ. And he himself showed us, though he was not here for many years, he came here only for 8 months and two months in during various times. This 10 years, he was here for 8 months only. But in these 8 months, he evangelized everyone, the natives of this place and also the Portuguese people, because the Portuguese felt that they were, greater and the locals had no value. But he gives them values are equal, whether for the locals or whether for the natives. This is what he told us. This is the message. And that's why wherever Goan has reached, I was speaking to a friend who came from Canada all the way. He said, this is my first exposition. But he said to me, you know, I'm come, I've never seen, but I am all excited and enthused to see the body of St. Francis here, because my sister has been telling me about the exposition, and that's why I have come all the way from Canada to attend this exposition, so that my faith also is renewed. And that's why we are here to praise God for this great saint who still lives in our hearts and in our minds, and who still speaks to us, who evangelizes us at every moment of our life, so that we too may imbibe the Christian spirit and live our life to the fullest. This is what we are called to live. Our life is life in Christ, because he preached Christ, and he preached Christ to such an extent that he became Christ. And as Christ, he is trying to tell us something about God, something about humanity.
We can see the relics now coming closer to St. Cathedral. It's the journey of faith. It is something that we can walk with our lives too. As we were told, we Christians believe that our journey begins with baptism. We are people on a journey. Our Indian tradition really talks about this in a very, very strong way. There are margas. Francis was taking up most of the time karma marga, the work and actions. He was a karmic person who would do a lot of actions. But there are other margas which we can also take. Bhakti marga. As we can see people today flocking around, they are come with bhakti, with devotion. There's Jnana marga. Jnana marga is also the way Francis tried to take his life in the beginning, trying to become a great intellectual. I, as a Christian, believe there is also a Christian marga, the marga of the cross, Sahana marga, the way of suffering, the way of the cross. And the Christian contribution to this ways of reaching moksha, reaching liberation, salvation, is the Sahana marga, where Jesus dies on the cross, suffers in his body for every one of us. And Christians are called to be tolerant by the Sahana marga, to be able to be open to everyone, to be able to accept and love everyone, to be able to forgive everyone. So within our marga tradition of India, we can appropriate the Sahana marga of Christianity, the way of the cross. And this way of the cross has been accepted by Francis. All his journeys have been great ways of the cross. He was always on the way. He was the man of the way, because he followed Jesus, who himself is the way. And that's why we are on a way. This is what this sacred walk that I was talking about tells us. We are walking people continuously on a journey. And that's why, as we walk this path, we need signposts to understand where we are, to understand how we can go and how we can find our path. God has been gracious by the gift of St. Francis, who is an important signpost where we can As we walk the journey of our life, we can stop, look at a bigger picture of life, where we are, where life is taking us. Are we just drifting, or is every step that we take is consciously taken? In today's world, very often we can get drifted by social engineering for politics, maybe even engineering psychologically for economics and commerce. And therefore we need critical consciousness to be able to stand up and look at our lives with consciousness, and to be able to take our path consciously, step by step. We can see people coming with great bhakti, with great devotion, with great love to Francis.
Francis responded to the signs of his times, and it is time for us to respond to the signs of our times. Fight against corruption, against materialism, against rationalism. We need to stand firm in our thinking and in our deeds. Francis lived a heroic life of self-denial. We need to live today. We need to imbibe the values of the gospel in a world of materialism, consumerism, and globalization. Francis manifests deep love for God and passion for humanity. We need to be like him. We need to have passion of humanity. We need to love one another. We need to love our neighbors. We need to be like Francis, true witness to Christ. The spirit of adaptation and adjustment is required today. Flexibility and working at flexi hours is the name of success. As Francis worked tirelessly, he always worked in a hurry, but he did a lot. He did a lot to complete his mission. He went from one country to the other, just proclaiming the good news. And we need to work tirelessly for evangelization. Francis was against oppression of the simple people. He came hard at the erring Portuguese officials as well as Brahmins in India. He describes Brahmins as most perverse people in the world. He says that Brahmins are men of little learning and dishonest in their ways. Goinzo Sahib, the Lord of Goa, man loved by the people of Goa, man for his time and saint for our times. He describes Indians and compares their behavior to the conjugation of the verb rapio rapus. I steal, you steal. West gave us the man Francis. East gave Francis the saint. He is our defender and protector of Goa. Simple but profound faith of Goan masses.
The sacred relics have just entered the famous cathedral, what we call the Se Cathedral, the mother church of all the churches in Goa. That's what we say. Cathedral Church is the church of the Archbishop. For all official function, liturgical function, he is supposed to preside in this cathedral, because the chair that is there is, we call cathedra. The teaching authority of the diocesan bishop comes from this chair. It's a symbol of the teaching authority of every diocesan bishop. At the Lateran Church, St. John's Church in Rome, there is the Holy Father's chair. The Pope sits there and he's supposed to instruct the people. He's supposed to teach the people sitting on that chair. So every diocese has this chair. And that's why this cathedral church is a very special church for us. Though the sacred remains of St. Francis Xavier remain always in the basilica, the minor basilica that we have. But for exposition, it is being brought here because this is a very huge and massive church. The church was formerly dedicated to Saint Catherine of Alexandria because it was on that day that the Portuguese entered Goa in 1510. So that church was dedicated to Saint Catherine of Alexandria, and now and from 2000, since the Holy Father declared Blessed Joseph Vaz as blessed in 1995, the decision came from the people of God in Goa and the hierarchy of the church to dedicate this church to Blessed Joseph Vaz, who is the patron of the archdiocese. He is not only confined to the cathedral church because formerly Saint Catherine of Alexandria was the patron of the cathedral church, and we would say St. Francis Xavier would be our patron, but now the patron of the archdiocese is Blessed Joseph Vaz. So we have the two saints there, St. Francis Xavier and Blessed Joseph Vaz. In fact, Blessed Joseph Vaz felt inspired in the cathedral when one priest who came from Sri Lanka was preaching about the poor state of those Catholics in Sri Lanka who were persecuted by the Dutch church. He said, Catholics are hiding and there is no priest to celebrate Mass for them. There is no one to preach for them the Word of God, to give them the sacraments. And he appealed to the people and to the clergymen, if there is any clergy willing to go to Sri Lanka to propagate faith, to strengthen the people of Sri Lanka, the Catholics of Sri Lanka, they were free to go. And at this time, Joseph Vaz heard this call, inner call. He said, I will go. And he went. He went to Tamil Nadu. From there he was supposed to take a boat or a ferry to cross and go to the island. The Jesuits who met him there told him, if you are going, you cannot go there as a Catholic priest. You have to disguise yourself as a servant, as a slave. And Joseph was heeding to the request of the Jesuits. Jesuits were far ahead of times. And we can say what Joseph Vaz did was really anticipating the inculturation according to the advice given to him by the Jesuits. He dressed a lungi and he took a small beggar's bag and he entered to Sri Lanka, and God was with him. And he said, I have to imitate in my life St. Francis Xavier. And the picture of St. Francis Xavier and the picture of Blessed Joseph Vaz in their external garbs are very similar.
Studio, New Delhi studio बोलो.
Huh?
Now
Yeah.
back to studio.
Ah.
New Delhi studio में था.
New Delhi studio? Ah. Okay.
Hello, Nirtaka.
तुम रहता रे New Delhi studio? Ah. Ah. Okay. Now we are back to
Now we can see the body being incensed. It is kept in the Cathedral Church, where till 4th January it will be there, so that people from across the globe can come and pay their homage to St. Francis Xavier. It has been a tradition that people come for all these many days, from today till 4th January. Every day, thousands of people will flock here and pay their final respects to Francis. We can see bishops, priests praying with deep faith and fervor as the body is kept for veneration at St. Cathedral. People are waiting outside, they are lining up. And now, as we are coming close to this live presentation of the exposition of the sacred relics of St. Francis Xavier, the 17th exposition, we are going to take you back to our studios in Delhi.